The fried chicken cook-off. In the kitchen, Dad and the two kids stand in a line. On the counter, chicken, flour, eggs, a frying pan. All three raise their hands confidently. Mom leans against the doorway, smiling, slightly suspicious. Dad rolls up his sleeves, looking very professional. The older kid follows the steps seriously. The younger one copies, but goes a bit too far. The stove timer beeps. Smoke fills the kitchen. Mom squints as she watches. One plate is burnt black. One plate is dripping with oil. One plate doesn't even look like chicken. Dad and the kids look at each other, then lower their heads sadly. Mom walks into the kitchen. She rolls up her sleeves. Gestures. Let me handle this. Dad and the kids stand behind her, eyes shining. A perfect plate of fried chicken is placed on the table. Dad and the kids clap loudly. Mom crosses her arms and smiles softly. Lost together, found together. The home cook-off. Mom is calmly cooking. Bluey and Bingo watch closely, eyes sparkling. Dad peeks in wearing an apron, upside down. Dad claps his hands excitedly, points at the counter, gestures, competition. Bluey and Bingo cheer silently, fists in the air. Three chefs rush to grab ingredients. Bluey grabs everything at once, drops half of it. Bingo carefully selects just a few items. Dad secretly adds something strange, a toy carrot. Mom watches, amused. Dad tastes his dish, winces, adds more of the wrong ingredient. Each dish is placed on the table. Bluey's dish is huge and messy. Bingo's dish is tiny but neat. Dad's dish, slightly smoking. Mom raises an eyebrow. Mom tastes. Bluey's, surprised but impressed. Bingo's, eyes widen with delight. Dad's, long pause, polite smile, quick sip of water. Bluey and Bingo giggle. Mom points to all three dishes, gives a thumbs up. The family sits together, sharing food. Dad secretly swaps his plate with Bluey's. Building a small fence. A cool morning. The whole family stands in front of an empty patch of yard. Dad pulls out a measuring tape to check the spacing. Mom marks the spots with white chalk. Sister and little brother line up the short wooden posts. Dad grabs a hammer and drives in the first post. Thud, thud. Firm and steady. Mom holds the post, checking the balance by eye. She nods to signal it's good. Sister passes over a wooden plank. Little brother runs back and forth, handing over nails. Thud! The post tilts slightly. Mom raises her hand to stop. The family steps back to look. Dad pulls the post out and adjusts it. Sister holds one end. Mom steadies it. Dad hammers again. Their rhythm becomes steady. The fence grows section by section. The fence is complete. Little brother taps a post lightly. Tap, tap. Mom, Dad, and Sister smile with pride. Night camping. Late afternoon, still bright daylight. The family loads camping gear into the car. Tent, bags, flashlight. The kids bounce excitedly. Dad gives a confident thumbs up.
Let's go!
Mom smiles. Dad and Mom set up the tent. The kids help hold poles and pegs. The tent is finally finished. The sky turns dark. The forest becomes quiet. Leaves rustle in the wind. The kids press close to Mom and Dad. Dad swallows nervously. Mom looks around, uneasy. A small noise from the bushes. Everyone freezes. Dad switches on the flashlight. Its beam shakes. Just a bug. No danger. But nobody relaxes. The family looks at each other. Mom gently shakes her head. Dad nods very quickly. The kids immediately run back toward the car. The tent stands alone behind them. The simple fishing rod. Quiet. Lakeside/riverside. Dad arrives with a fancy fishing rod, tackle box, and folding chair. Son stands beside him, empty-handed, watching curiously. Dad casts the line confidently. The float sits on the water, perfectly still. Dad waits, checks his watch, sighs softly. The son looks around, finds a tree branch, ties a simple string to it, adds a tiny hook, drops it into the water, just for fun. Dad doesn't notice. The string suddenly tugs hard. The son's eyes widen. He pulls up the branch. A fish! The son freezes for a moment, then grins proudly. Dad turns around, looks at the fish, looks at his expensive fishing rod, looks at the stick. Dad bursts out laughing, shaking his head in disbelief. Dad pats the son's head proudly. They sit side by side, watching the water together. The fish swims calmly in a small bucket. Trick backfires. Mom is cleaning the floor, fully focused. Bluey and Bingo peek from behind the couch, exchanging mischievous grins. Bluey draws a simple trap plan on a piece of paper. Bingo nods excitedly and gives a silent thumbs up. They shake hands in agreement. Fast, funny montage. A string is tied to a chair. A pillow is placed up high. A small paper X is stuck on a slippery spot. The girls step back, admiring their work. Mom walks closer. The girls hold their breath, covering their mouths. Mom pauses, looks around suspiciously. Mom pretends not to notice and calmly walks around the trap. Suddenly, she gently pulls the string. The pillow drops, right onto Bluey and Bingo. The girls tumble to the floor, surprised but unharmed. Mom stands with hands on her hips, smiling victoriously. Bluey and Bingo look at each other, embarrassed, then hide their faces. Mom pulls both girls into a warm hug. They all laugh together. Dad peeks in, accidentally steps on the leftover trap and slips slightly. Everyone bursts into laughter.
Musical statues. Dad Bandit is about to start the music. Bluey and Bingo are ready for a high-stakes game of musical statues.
The music starts. The sisters dance wildly, soaking up every bit of the upbeat rhythm. Music stops! Bluey freezes instantly on one leg, trying her best not to let her tail wag. Bingo wobbles a little, but manages to stay still. Dad walks around to check if any statue moves. The music kicks in again, faster and funnier. The whole family dances, the room filled with silent laughter.
The secret seed. Mom, Bluey, and Bingo stroll together. The kids run ahead while Mom walks behind, smiling. Bingo suddenly stops and looks down. She picks up a tiny seed from the ground. Bluey leans in, curious. Mom gestures for them to keep walking. Bingo looks at the seed, then quietly closes her paw around it, back at home. Mom turns away to get some water. Bingo looks left, right, sneaks to a flower pot, garden corner, digs a small hole, hides the seed, quickly covers it with soil. Bluey stands nearby, acting like a serious lookout. One day, Mom tidies the garden. Bingo rushes over. Too late. Mom bends down and sees a small flower blooming. Her eyes widen in surprise. Bingo stands behind her, smiling shyly. Mom turns around and gently pats Bingo's head. Bluey claps happily. The three sit together, watching the flower sway in the breeze.
Shooting star.
The night has fallen.
Bluey and Bandit settle down for a quiet evening on the veranda after a long day of play. Bluey gazes up at the twinkling stars, and suddenly she points an excited finger towards the sky. A brilliant, swift streak of light, a shooting star, flies across the dark night sky. Both dad and daughter watch it pass. Bluey turns to look at her dad, her eyes wide with surprise and a little bit of wonder. Bandit gently pulls Bluey into a warm hug. Bluey closes her eyes, keeping her silent wish completely private. She opens them, giving a look of pure contentment. Bandit tightens his hug, savoring the special moment.
Lost together, found together. Faces of emotion. Chili sits on the floor with Bluey and Bingo, holding a small, magical hand mirror. Chili looks into the mirror and then makes a very sad face, with her ears drooping slightly. Bluey and Bingo observe closely, and then they both imitate that sad expression in the most adorable way. Suddenly, Chili changes. She flashes a big, bright smile at her daughters. Immediately, the sisters grin back, mimicking their mom's spreading happiness. Chili looks into the mirror and then makes a very sad face, with her ears drooping slightly. Everyone bursts out laughing happily and shares a big, warm hug on the rug. What a fun lesson about feelings! Bingo has a stomachache. Where are my glasses? Dad squints at a newspaper/phone, bringing it very close to his face. He looks around suddenly. His glasses are missing. Dad gestures urgently. I can't find my glasses. Mom and the kids look up and immediately stand. Quick montage. Dad bends down to search the couch, still squinting. Bluey checks under the table. Bingo opens the toy box. Mom lifts pillows and opens drawers. Everyone searches seriously. Dad picks up another pair of glasses. Sunglasses, toy glasses. Tries them on, shakes his head. The kids glance at Dad, then at each other, holding back laughter. Mom suddenly stops. She stares at Dad's head. Close up. The glasses are resting on top of Dad's head. Mom gently points upward. Dad reaches up, feels the glasses, freezes for a second, then gives a sheepish smile. The kids burst into laughter. Bluey and Bingo wave goodbye to Dad and head to school. They walk happily down the street. After a few steps, Bingo reaches behind her back. No backpack. Bluey notices and points. Bingo quickly pulls out a phone and makes a call. Back at home, Dad is sipping coffee. The phone rings. He listens, nods confidently, and taps his chest. I've got this. He rushes inside and grabs a backpack. Bluey and Bingo wait near the school entrance, a little worried. From afar, Dad runs toward them, out of breath, holding the backpack high. The kids relax. Bingo takes the backpack and opens it. Inside, adult clothes, a scarf, random items. Bluey leans in, then covers her mouth, giggling. Bingo freezes. Dad looks inside the bag, looks at the kids, realizes this is Mom's backpack. He scratches his head, embarrassed. The three stare at each other for a beat. They all burst into silent laughter. The simple fishing rod. Quiet. Lakeside/riverside. Dad arrives with a fancy fishing rod, tackle box, and folding chair. Son stands beside him, empty-handed, watching curiously. Dad casts the line confidently. The float sits on the water, perfectly still. Dad waits, checks his watch, sighs softly. The son looks around, finds a tree branch, ties a simple string to it, adds a tiny hook, drops it into the water, just for fun. Dad doesn't notice. The string suddenly tugs hard. The son's eyes widen. He pulls up the branch. A fish! The son freezes for a moment, then grins proudly. Dad turns around, looks at the fish, looks at his expensive fishing rod, looks at the stick. Dad bursts out laughing, shaking his head in disbelief. Dad pats the son's head proudly. They sit side by side, watching the water together. The fish swims calmly in a small bucket.
Shooting star.
The night has fallen. Bluey and Bandit settle down for a quiet evening on the veranda after a long day of play.
Bluey gazes up at the twinkling stars, and suddenly, she points an excited finger towards the sky. A brilliant, swift streak of light, a shooting star, flies across the dark night sky. Both dad and daughter watch it pass. Bluey turns to look at her dad, her eyes wide with surprise and a little bit of wonder. Bandit gently pulls Bluey into a warm hug. Bluey closes her eyes, keeping her silent wish completely private. She opens them, giving a look of pure contentment. Bandit tightens his hug, savoring the special moment.
Faces of emotion. Chili sits on the floor with Bluey and Bingo, holding a small, magical hand mirror. Chili looks into the mirror and then makes a very sad face, with her ears drooping slightly. Bluey and Bingo observe closely, and then they both imitate that sad expression in the most adorable way. Suddenly, Chili changes. She flashes a big, bright smile at her daughters. Immediately, the sisters grin back, mimicking their mom's spreading happiness. Chili looks into the mirror and then makes a very sad face, with her ears drooping slightly. Everyone bursts out laughing happily and shares a big, warm hug on the rug. What a fun lesson about feelings! Building a small fence. A cool morning. The whole family stands in front of an empty patch of yard. Dad pulls out a measuring tape to check the spacing. Mom marks the spots with white chalk. Sister and little brother line up the short wooden posts. Dad grabs a hammer and drives in the first post. Thud, thud. Firm and steady. Mom holds the post, checking the balance by eye. She nods to signal it's good. Sister passes over a wooden plank. Little brother runs back and forth, handing over nails. Thud! The post tilts slightly. Mom raises her hand to stop. The family steps back to look. Dad pulls the post out and adjusts it. Sister holds one end, Mom steadies it. Dad hammers again. Their rhythm becomes steady. The fence grows section by section. The fence is complete. Little brother taps a post lightly. Tap, tap. Mom, Dad, and Sister smile with pride.
The experiment slide. Bluey and Bingo are setting up a small laboratory. They use a chair and a plank to create a simple, steep slide. Bluey retrieves her first test subject, a round rubber ball. She places it at the top of the plank and lets it go. The ball flies quickly down the ramp and bounces across the floor. Bingo giggles and tries to catch it, amused by the speed. Bluey places the block on the ramp and releases it. The block slides slowly, coming to a gentle stop at the bottom with a quiet thud. The two girls look at each other. Bluey gives a serious nod, as if she understands the lesson about friction. Bingo smiles, satisfied with the results of their experiment.
Water volleyball. A scorching noon. The whole family fans themselves, sweat beading on their faces. Little brother spots a basin of water in the corner of the yard, his eyes lighting up. Dad brings out a volleyball. Mom places two basins of water facing each other. Sister signals to divide teams, standing on opposite sides. Everyone looks at one another and nods in agreement. Dad gently tosses the ball. Sister makes a clean return. Splash! The ball drops into a basin. Water explodes everywhere. Mom can't dodge in time. Part of her shirt gets soaked. Little brother jumps up to spike the ball. His hand slips. The ball flies off course. Splash! The ball lands right in Dad's basin. Dad is drenched from head to toe. The family stands in the middle of the yard, then burst into unstoppable laughter. Broken window. A calm afternoon. A balloon floats gently in the air. The younger brother takes a run-up and throws the balloon high. The balloon clips the edge of the window. Crash! The glass shatters, shards clinking as they scatter across the floor. The whole family freezes. Dad puts on gloves, carefully gathering each piece of glass. Mom lays down a large sheet of cardboard to cover the floor. The sister passes tape and a small broom. The younger brother hands over a cleaning cloth, stepping lightly. The last shard is placed into the bin. The family exhales in relief. Dad lifts the new glass panel, his hands slightly trembling. Mom holds the window frame, eyes focused. The glass slides perfectly into place. Dad tightens the screws. Mom checks the seal along the edges. Sunlight pours through the new window. The family looks at one another and smiles. Fixing the bike in the yard afternoon. A bicycle is leaning against the wall. The back tire is flat, completely deflated. Dad bends down and squeezes the tire. He shakes his head and sighs. Dad grabs a hand pump and attaches it to the valve. Mom stands beside him, holding the bike frame firmly. Sister runs into the house. She brings out a wrench and a cleaning rag. Little brother bustles around, hands over the wrong tool, then quickly switches. The wheel spins hard. The bike suddenly tilts. Mom almost slips. Dad quickly grabs the bike. Whoosh! The wheel pops off the axle and rolls fast across the yard. Little brother runs after it. Sister runs too. The whole yard erupts in chaos. Dad puts the wheel back on. Dad pumps a few more times. Dad spins the wheel to test it. Mom pushes the bike to the center of the yard. Sister hops on and rides a lap. The bike rolls perfectly. Little brother claps and cheers. Mom and Dad laugh together. The balancing act. Bluey spots a bird perched on the fence and decides to challenge herself with a little balancing game. She slowly lifts one leg, arms out wide, trying to keep her body as still as a statue. But balancing is harder than it looks. Bluey begins to wobble and her little legs start to shake. Dad Bandit notices and steps right beside her. He circles his hands around her, creating a silent safety zone. Seeing her dad's hands nearby, Bluey feels a surge of confidence. She takes a deep breath and regains her focus. Thanks to the silent support, Bluey holds her balance longer than before. She feels strong and very capable. Snowman.
A day in the life of Bluey.
The great cleanup battle morning. Mom stands in the middle of the living room, hands on her hips. She takes a deep breath, then gives a strong signal. Clean up! The whole family jumps. They look around at the piles of clutter. Dad takes the mop. Sister hugs a stack of clothes. Little brother drags a box of toys. Dad mops too hard. Water splashes onto the couch and the wall. Sister finishes folding. The stack tilts. Crash! Clothes spill everywhere. Little brother stuffs toys into the box. The box gets too full. Pop! Toys fly all over the floor. The family stands in the middle of the room, staring at the new chaos. Mom steps into the center, signals to start over. Everyone works in rhythm. The room gradually becomes tidy again. The living room is clean and bright. They look at one another, then burst out laughing. Where's the car? The family gets into their car. Doors close. Seatbelts click. Everyone looks ready and excited. Inside the supermarket, quick montage. An empty cart rolls in. Items pile up fast. The cart is now overflowing. At the register, the receipt prints and prints and prints. Dad stares at it nervously. Mom nods calmly. Outside the store, the family pushes the heavy cart forward. Dad strains. Mom helps steer. The kids push proudly. They move far, very far, like they're walking home. They stop. Dad looks around. No car. Dad pulls out the car keys. Mom slowly turns and looks back toward the store. The family car sits alone in the parking lot. Back to the family, standing far away. Dad scratches his head, embarrassed. Mom crosses her arms, amused. The kids giggle. Building a small wooden house. A cool, gentle morning. Dad carries the wood out and places it on the ground. Mom lays out the measuring tape, carefully measuring each piece. Sister uses a pencil to mark the lines. Little brother hugs a handful of nails, running back and forth excitedly. Dad joins 2 wooden boards to make the frame. The little house tilts slightly. The family stands back to look. Mom points and gently shakes her head. They take it apart and adjust it. Dad hammers in the nails. Thud, thud. Sister holds the board straight. Little brother hands over the hammer. The wrong way. The small wooden house stands firmly. The roof provides just enough cover with a cute low door. The whole family fits perfectly inside the tiny house. They look at one another and smile warmly. The rattling fan, a hot noon. An old fan spins slowly. Clack, clack! An irritating noise. The whole family looks at the fan. Frowning, they fan themselves with their hands. Dad places it in the middle of the floor. He grabs a screwdriver and carefully removes the screws. Mom hands over a small box to hold the screws. She nods, reminding him with a look. Sister holds the fan frame steady. Little brother sits close by, eyes wide as he watches. Ting! A screw pops out and rolls across the floor. Little brother crawls after it. He even crawls under the table. Sister puts the fan blades back on, slightly crooked, but tightened anyway. Dad nods and flips the switch. Whoosh! The fan spins the wrong way. Dad tightens the screws firmly. Dad switches the fan on again. Boo! The fan runs smoothly, a gentle breeze blowing. The whole family claps, covering the roof to avoid the rain afternoon. Mom looks up at the sky, raises her hand to feel the wind. A raindrop lands on her hand. Mom turns toward the yard, signaling urgently. Dad runs to the shed, pulling out a large tarp. The wind grows stronger. Leaves rustle loudly. Dad spreads the tarp over the items in the yard. Flap! A strong gust lifts the tarp up. Dad holds one corner of the tarp. Mom grips the other corner. Sister jumps onto a chair, pulling the tarp edge down. Little brother presses hard on the lowest corner. The tarp billows like a sail. Everyone sways, but keeps holding on. Rain starts pouring down. Water slides off the tarp, streaming down in lines. Items are dry. Plant pots are safe. Chairs are fully covered. Everyone sighs in relief. Making a small shelter for a cat. A gentle afternoon. A lost cat curls up under the porch roof. Dad bends down, using his hand to shield the cat from the rain. Mom looks at the sky, looks at the cat, nods with an idea. Dad brings out a large cardboard box. Mom lays a soft old cloth inside. Sister holds the box. Little brother passes the string and tape. Dad adds an extra cardboard layer at the bottom. Mom places the shelter close to the wall, away from the wind. Sister sets a small bowl of water in front. Little brother tiptoes over, gently placing a small towel inside. The whole family steps back, squatting down to watch. The cat walks closer, sniffs the entrance, pokes its head in, then crawls all the way inside. The cat curls up, lying still. The family looks at one another and smiles. Counting the stairs. Bluey and Bingo stand ready for a simple challenge, climbing the staircase. Bluey starts her climb, and Bandit begins to clap rhythmically, each clap matching a step. Bingo is slightly confused at first, but she quickly finds the rhythm, trying to sync her tiny steps with the claps. The two girls are halfway up. Bandit claps louder and clearer, helping them maintain the count. Bluey glances back to check her dad's rhythm. Bingo misses a step and pauses. She concentrates hard, then steps forward, determined to catch the rhythm of her dad's counting. Finally, Bluey steps onto the last stair, and Bingo follows closely behind. Bingo has a stomachache.
Bluey goes on a treasure hunt.
Secret gift box! "5 minutes at the beach, sunny beach." The family arrives with arms full of gear: tent, mat, beach bag. The kid bounces with excitement. Dad carefully sets up the beach tent. Mom spreads out the mat, and arranges items neatly. The kid stares at the ocean, eyes sparkling. The moment Mom and Dad turn away, the kid runs straight into the water. A strong gust of wind blows. The tent flips and flies. The mat slides across the sand. Dad chases the flying tent. Mom grabs the mat. They exchange panicked looks. Cut back to the kid, still playing joyfully in the waves, waving happily at Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad look toward the water, worried but amused. The kid runs up from the water and hugs them. Cleaning the old storage room morning. The back storage room door opens. The whole family stands in front of the room, filled with old boxes, covered items, and light cobwebs. Dad rolls up his sleeves and lifts a heavy box. Mom opens a notebook and quickly draws 3 sections. Keep, throw away, reuse. Sister opens an old box. An old toy car rolls out. Little brother's eyes go wide. The family looks at each other, then smiles. Quick, playful moments. Dad pushes the car. It hits a table leg and bounces back. Mom releases the car. It rolls in circles. Sister and brother fight over controlling it. Bump! Into an empty box. Everyone bursts out laughing. The storage room becomes brighter, cleaner, more open. The family sits down on the storage room floor. All let out a relieved sigh, smiling softly. The memory box. A quiet afternoon. A small box sits in the center of the table. A handwritten label on the outside reads, Memories. Dad looks around and gently opens a drawer. He takes out an old key, worn by time. Smiling softly, he places it into the box. Mom stands by the shelf. She takes a neatly folded old photograph, gently smooths the corner, then places it into the box. Sister runs back to her room. She brings out a slightly worn hair ribbon. She looks at it for a moment longer, then puts it in. Little brother quietly bends down to the floor. He picks up a small, scratched toy, nods to himself, and places it into the box. The whole family sits in a circle. The box is placed in the middle. Dad opens the lid. The first item is taken out. Everyone looks at each other, pointing, guessing. As each item appears, surprised gestures, soft nods, gentle laughter. As the items are laid back on the table, the family sits closer together. Forgot the kid! Morning at home. Mom grabs her keys and bag, checks the clock, running late. She gestures to the kid. School time! Mom walks out the door, carrying the child's backpack. Inside, the kid is still putting on shoes. The door closes. The kid looks up, frozen in place. The kid walks to the window and watches Mom's car drive away. He scratches his head, then shrugs and sits on the couch, calmly playing with a toy. Outside the school, Mom parks the car and turns to the back seat. Empty. Mom freezes. Mom looks at the backpack, looks at the empty seat, looks at her phone. Eyes widen, panic. She quickly turns the car around. Mom rushes inside and swings the door open. The kid is on the couch, happily eating a snack/playing. They stare at each other for a second. Mom exhales in relief and hugs the kid tightly. The kid pats Mom's back like, "It's okay." Mom carries the kid outside, then double-checks the back seat before closing the door.